All right, welcome to WebEx here. Thanks for joining us. This is the Joint Investment Retirement Board calling the meeting to order here at 7:01 p.m. We've got a great full lineup today. The reason that we're doing the WebEx is because we have a lot of presenters coming in from a lot of different places. We have to go to an executive session. So it was just going to be easier to handle it all if we did it electronically. And so Chris has been in training for this all week to be able to handle all of the cutoffs, and she's ready. Well, I'd like to, guys, come in and kick it off. Hope everyone's had a nice summer. Happy fall. Would like to ask someone to review, give me a motion on the minutes. First up is the minutes from the regular meeting of July 28th. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review those minutes. If someone would like to make a motion.
Motion to review.
I'll second the motion, Eric Caliper.
All right. Motion by Tom McCarthy, seconded by Eric Caliper. Any discussion on it? Good to me. All in favor? Let's take a vote. All in favor of the minutes. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstain? No?
I
All right.
abstain, Carolyn.
Oh, Scott Pollock will be abstaining from this one. Terrific. Then let the record show it was minutes are approved. Hey, Chris, I just want to say thank you. The minutes were really clear. That was a tough meeting. That was a long meeting. That was a complicated meeting. And I thought you did a really nice job. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Eric. Thank you all. I think tonight's going to be a complicated one too, but I'll do my best.
All right. Well, to that, let's get right on to the complicated. Guys, we are next. We're going to be taken into executive session. We are out of executive session. No votes were taken. It's 7:20,
No votes?
7:34. No votes were taken during the presentation. I'd like to put forward the motion to proceed as recommended by council. May I have a second? Tom McCarthy seconded. Okay, with that, I'd like to take a vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstain?
I'm going to abstain.
That'd be Russ Atkins is abstaining? No, Bruce, is that
Bru- Yeah, I'm abstaining. Bruce Ryan.
Bruce Ryan will abstain.
Brian?
Okay. All right. With that, the motion carries. And thank you very much, Matt. Thank you for joining us.
No problem. Thank you, everybody, for hearing me out. And like I said, if anybody ever has a question, just reply to that thread, shoot me a line, and we can connect offline.
Awesome.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks so much. Good night.
Thank you.
Jared, I'm going to let you, would you be willing to reach out to our friends from Milliman? I know it's safe to come back in the water. We're ready to have them join us. As background, guys,
And Carolyn and Vanguard too, right?
and Vanguard, oh yes, and Vanguard too. Let me reach out to Brian. I'll reach out to him. Thanks. Okay. So by way of background, we're getting a presentation by Milliman tonight. And Milliman, as you know, we've brought on board and we've contracted with them and we've hired them to become our actuaries. But if you recall, part of the RFP process that we ran also asked them everyone for their capabilities to administer the pensions. And what we're going to be hearing this evening is a presentation by Milliman. Part of the reason we selected Milliman in the RFP was their capability to come in and take over the administration of the pensions and OPEB, I believe. And so they're coming here to give us a presentation on those capabilities. The town has asked us to advance this by a couple of months and kind of move on it because there are some needs on the town side. We might have a pending retirement that we'll be approving perhaps, that would suggest that either the town will have to hire somebody to become the benefits administrator, or we outsource it. And so this is our time. So yep, Jim Hazelkamp is the town HR director. I think he's on the call with us. He reached out through Jared and asked if we could accelerate this process and have Milliman come in and present. Jared or Jim, I'm not sure if there's anything more you wanted to add.
I don't have anything. I just spoke to Becky. They should be on in just a second.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Am I off mute?
Off mute. We hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I would just add, because I talked to them, which was a little scary, was the timeline to actually implement is 6 to 9 months. So that's even a bigger concern for me, which is why I appreciate the fact that it was accelerated, because the duration to just do this project is longer than I thought. And I'm trying to deal with how I'm going to handle some transitions in my office where I may have to look at different alternatives. And I think this makes sense for the town on a whole bunch of fronts, because I think when you see the demonstration, the capabilities that Milliman would be able to provide, and particularly the platform that they would be promoting, will give our participants a much better pension experience than certainly we have provided in the past. So I'll leave it at that and let them do their presentation, and then you folks can ask them whatever questions you'd like to ask.
Well, it's good to see you all. I'm Becky Seelman from Milliman. You also know Jen Castellano. I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Kevin Hart, who heads up our unit that provides administration services to corporate pension plans and governmental pension plans. We're in the midst of getting set up with the city of Stamford for their city employees plan, and have already installed this administration system that we'll be talking to you about today. The town of Manchester, Connecticut, the Metropolitan District. So Kevin's going to give you an overview of what an administration system is, and what it will mean to the members of the pension plan, what it will mean to Jim and his staff. And we want this to be interactive. We want to put the information in your hands that you need in order to really understand what it is that's being put in front of you. So please feel free to speak up if you have any questions or concerns. So Kevin, let me turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Becky. Good afternoon, everyone. So thank you for allowing us the time to show you our system. I will share my screen here. Let me know when you can see it.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so what I'm going to be showing you today is Milliman's pension administration system. We call it the MARC system. It has an administration website that can be used for the administrators of the plan, and then it also has a participant website for the members. So I'm going to start by showing you the participant experience. I think that this can add a lot of value for the members of the plan to be able to download forms and documents, run benefit calculations, things like that. So I'll start with this. Any questions before I get started? All right, so this first page here is a login page. First time they come out here, they would register and enter a username and password. Once they log into the system, they'll get, or to the website, they'll have a summary page that shows them their accrued benefit and their projected benefit to NRD. This page has caveats and other things, and the website is customizable, so we'll customize it for the town and put your logo up there, and obviously all the wording and all that will be reflective of the plan provisions and the terminology that you use for your members. So we also have a My Information page. This allows the members to be able to see certain pieces of their data. We can also allow them to change certain pieces of their data. So if they wanted to add a beneficiary, if there's no beneficiary stored in the system, they can go through a process that ask them specific questions, what type of beneficiary it is, and then it goes through a series of steps that allows them to add information for their beneficiary and add that beneficiary to the system. It can also allow members to change contact information. Generally, the payroll imports are going to change that for active employees, but we can also make the website available to deferred vested employees that still have benefits remaining. That's a much harder group to keep track of because they're not receiving a paycheck from the town. Everyone who's receiving a paycheck is always going to let you know where they live. People that aren't sometimes don't. So this allows them to change their contact information and be able to track that. The calculation capabilities, we would code the system and this website to use all the rules for the various tiers that the town plans have. We would do thorough testing. The actuaries would assist in the testing and review of the calculations to make sure that everything is accurate. So this page is going to allow the members to go out and run projections at various estimates. They can enter salary growth assumptions. They can enter beneficiary date information. They can run up to 3 estimates. They can either enter an age for termination and commencement, or enter a date, or enter earlier normal retirement date. They click the calculate button, then the result is going to be a web page that shows them the various forms of payment that they're eligible for. This is a demo site, so this might not have all the forms of payment that are available in your plan, but we would code all the forms of payment that are in the plan. So this shows them an estimate of their projected benefits at the various assumptions that they entered. They can get an explanation of the payment form types so that they can see an explanation for what a joint survivor annuity is and some of the other forms that are available to them. On this page, they can also request final paperwork. So if they're getting close to terminating or retiring and want to see that information, they can fill out this form, and then that sends an email to whoever is responsible for running the calculations. So this gives this ability for the members to run calculations does a couple of things. It really reduces the amount of estimates that get requested. So it cuts down on the administration time needed because they have this tool available to them. And every plan seems to have a member or two that requests estimates monthly, sometimes more frequently than that. So, it gives someone like that a tool to come out and run as many estimates as they want, whenever they want. It also allows people to have retirement planning, information right at their tips. This pension information, no matter how many planners are out there, financial planners and retirement planners and things like that, the most difficult calculation and all that is the pension benefit. So this is something that can give them an accurate pension estimate for the dates that they enter. Any questions about anything I've said so far?
And I'll just add in that Kevin mentioned before payroll feeds. We will set up an automated payroll feed from the town's payroll system into this system. So it will contain up-to-date information about the active employees that are covered by this plan. So when they go in to run estimates, it won't be based on stale information. It will be based on information as of the most recent payroll period. So they're getting fresh information that they can access on their own time as often as they want to. It's just a much more enhanced experience for the members than they can get right now.
So Becky and Kevin, what's the activity like on this? So, if members have access to this. How frequently do they go and they use it?
So a lot of it depends on how it's being communicated to the members. If Milliman is performing the administration, we certainly advertise it a lot to the members because we'd rather have them running these estimates on their own and then calling us with questions as opposed to calling us to produce the paperwork and mail it out and go through that process. So for plans where it's communicated, we see a lot of activity. We tend to see a lot of activity when it gets mentioned. So if we mention it in some type of annual mailing, then shortly after that, there's high usage. I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but we have a chart that if I go to the administration site, we have a chart that tracks the usage. And so we can see here this is our demo site, how many calcs are run, but we can see how much activity there was in the current month. Last year, we can do our own range if we want to. So this does allow us to track it and see if usage is really falling for a plan, then we'll send out a communication to remind people that this exists.
And Carolyn, I want to return back to something Kevin said a little earlier, if Milliman is doing the administration or not. This system can be deployed across a wide spectrum. At one end, this is a tool that the town of Fairfield staff uses to do the administration of the pension plan. So the town staff this is a significantly enhanced version of what they're doing now. It's not spreadsheets that were created sometime in the 1980s. It's a modern, fully functional expert system to do pension administration. And we call that an in-house model. So it's a software system that the town employees are using to fulfill the administration tasks that they're doing now. At the other end, what we'd call the full service model is all of the administrative tasks are done directly by Milliman staff who do this all day, every day. This is, what they wake up in the morning looking forward to. Jen and I love doing actuarial work, but we've got a group that works with Kevin that does pension administration all day, every day. And we can configure this at some point in between where we come up with some division of responsibilities between town and Milliman that best suits your needs. What we've been talking with Jim about is more at the full service end of the spectrum, because Jim's losing the staff that has been doing this work. And we can bridge that gap. In the meantime, in the time that it will take this system to get up and running, Jen and I can provide a bridge so that calculations can still be performed for people who need estimates or are retiring.
You can see here some of the responsibilities listed under the full service model. This is certainly a short list. There's much more than this, but if you did want the full service model, Milliman can take on all the functions of the administration, from having a call center set up so that we take calls from participants, to interacting with the custodian to initiate retirement payments, and then obviously running all of the benefit calculations as well. So it's essentially you're paying Milliman to administer the plan, and Milliman takes care of all interfacing with the other vendors that are involved with the pension process, as well as all the members.
Right. And when we talk about members, we're not just talking about the employees who are in this plan. We're also talking about those former employees that are due a benefit, and all of the retirees that are collecting a monthly pension check. So if a retiree wants to change their address or direct deposit or tax withholding, They can go on the website if they're comfortable doing that. They can call the call center if that's their preferred method, but they don't have to show up at town hall during business hours, to talk to someone. They can take care of business on their own time in their own way.
And you'd be surprised at how much contact we receive from retirees. If their checks are a day late, we tend to get a lot of calls asking where the check is if they don't have direct deposit. So we still do receive a lot of questions from retirees that have questions about their pension payments and have other questions, and so we handle that as well.
Your question there?
Are there more slides? If not,
yeah.
maybe you could take that down so we can all see each other.
Yes,
I can keep going through the demo if you'd like. I still have some more pages to show.
But if anyone has a question, just
Oh,
speak.
sure. Yeah. I can take this down now if.
I'll wait till the end. You can finish your presentation. Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, sure. Thanks. So this is the pension estimates. We also have an optional page that also allows them to run kind of all their retirement income possibilities. So that can include spouse and partner capabilities. Date here. So it can include, and it saves all the information that gets entered. So you can see down here that there's already some values saved, but this allows them to enter various amounts for IRAs and savings and things like that, and spouse or partner income too. So the purpose of this is really to try to give them an idea of the retirement income that they'll have at their projected retirement date. So it has a graph here, and this is one of the, I would say, of all the features on this website, this is the one that we're currently spending the most time enhancing. Retirement readiness is a hot topic, so we're trying to build this website to have as many features that can be helpful for someone who's considering retirement. So we're continually enhancing these pages and adding more to them. But you can see here, it shows them the replacement income in their first year of retirement. There's a chart that has a bunch of fancy colors and numbers that show the year-by-year values and how they change. And there's also a summary that shows projected balance, and then projected balances, and then also projected monthly benefits. What we've done is we've converted the balances to a monthly benefit to kind of give them a sense of what their monthly income could be. But then down here, we also do show them their projected ending balances so that they can also have a sense for what a total lump sum of money that they'd have at retirement. As far as non-calculation features, we have the ability to upload documents for the participants. Benefit statement, if we run benefit statements, they can come out here, and it's a little bigger, and just click on the link and it opens up a PDF. We can upload any type of PDF for the participant, so that can be calculations that we've run or anything that needs to be filled out by the member. They also have the ability to upload documents themselves. So if they need to provide Milliman or the town with a birth certificate or marriage certificate or anything along those lines, they can upload that document here, and it gets stored to their record in our system. And then they can also view and download various plan documents. This might include a summary of plan provisions or a beneficiary designation form or anything else that plan administrators are typically providing to participants. We can have that available here so that they don't have to be sent to the participant. And the last piece that I'll show you on this site is the contact us page. So if Milliman's administering the plan, we would have our information here so that they can contact us with any questions that they have. They can fill out a message here that gets emailed then to either to Milliman or to the town if the town is performing all the administration. So that's a really quick overview of the member website. I also have a couple things that I can show you for the administration website, but before I move on to that, are there any other questions about the member website and the participant experience that Milliman would offer? Yes.
Yeah, Kevin, this looks user-friendly enough to me. Can you give me a sense of what kind of participation you have on the basis of a history?
Sure. So, it's growing more and more. I think that, when we first created this website 15 years ago, that we didn't see a ton of usage. We saw it more with some of the younger participants. It is a pretty easy to use website, and I think that nowadays just about everyone is more familiar with using websites. So we try to make it easy, to move around, and there's help pages, and so we do see now a much higher level of participation. I don't have exact statistics, but when we communicate the website, we tend to see a very high percentage of participants access the website. Initially it goes down after that, but you see a lot of usage from people that are considering retiring. People might be going out to the website, every week or so to run new projections and just kind of see where they're at so that they can make that important decision. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I suppose so. I'm just trying to get a sense of to what degree having this tool or making this tool available to everyone in the plan eliminates the need for face-to-face or phone communication.
Right. It certainly cuts down on that. I don't have an exact number. I could provide a percentage of participants for some of our similar clients and see what percentage is using the website on a regular basis. It's hard to say. I think that there's a lot of things that can be done out here. We usually have a communication that explains what's available on the member website to kind of give them that information so that to try to push them to come out here, because it definitely does save phone calls and mailings and things like that. It's just hard to put an exact number on what the quantity might be.
And I think that some people think of an administration system mostly in terms of just a benefit calculation tool. But this is really much more than that. Remember, retirees are going to be able to do a lot of sort of self-help sorts of things, or call the call center and take care of change of address and things like that. If you've ever applied for a loan or a mortgage, you might have been asked to supply a piece of paper that talks about your pension benefits. And that's not something that would ever rise, I think, to the attention of the JRIB, but it's something that Jim's staff has to deal with to produce those statements, and people will be able to, get that sort of thing taken care of. So there are lots and lots of things beyond just being able to provide estimates of benefits and the final calculation. There's the whole range of things that need to be done to deliver all of the right pension benefits to the right people in a timely fashion.
And even things that where we still take calls, a lot of times we can still save the participant time because we can upload it to this website. So if they do want, what Becky was talking about, some type of pension verification letter for their for a mortgage or something like that, Milliman can run that and upload it to the participant website, and they don't have to wait a couple days for it to be mailed. They can come out to the website and it'll be there 5 minutes later. So, so it's there's a lot of value to this, to having a website for the members. Yes.
Kevin, as someone who might be using this site down the road, how do you guys handle disputes? And I mean, my one concern is the personal touch. I think, you've got people that are either close to retiring or retiring, so it's an overwhelming time. How do you guys maintain that balance of, giving the, just the facts and the information, but the personal touch, or, and when there's a question about the benefits and the calculations, how is that handled?
Yeah, that's a great question. We certainly don't discourage participants from calling us because a lot of people, it is a time where they have to make really important decisions and a kind of a stressful time for some. So we have a call center that's fully trained in the plan so that they can answer questions about the various forms of payment that are available, what might happen if they wait a couple months, things like that. So we by having this website, we definitely aren't discouraging participants that want that human touch. If they want that, they can still reach out to us and have the phone. This is, a lot of times we'll see the calls that are happening right as they're about to make the decision, but prior to that, they can do a lot of modeling out here, and then when they have questions, they can contact our call center and we can walk them through the various process. So I definitely don't want to imply that we discourage that human touch and that reaching out, because a lot of times their questions aren't going to be answered by going to this website. They're still going to have to reach out to us, and we have a lot of information on the election form. So when they're ready to make that decision, we include a lot of information, and then we encourage them to reach out to us, and so that we can walk them through the election forms and that process.
Again, but just real quick, I started to monopolize, but I know there was some concern or some consideration about the handoff or the current calculations, and maybe I heard at a meeting a while ago that there might be some payments that were, or people that were due money that were in the system that didn't take their money back out and that kind of thing. So how are you guys handling that transition if you guys were to come on and taking on this role?
Yeah, and Becky, I don't know if you have any background about some of the things that he was talking about. From the pension administration system, we make sure that the calculations are 100% accurate for all calcs. Before calculations go out, we review them. Some of the things that have, I don't have a lot of knowledge about some of the things that have happened in the past, but having one of the reasons that you have a pension administration system is that it really reduces the risk of having inaccurate calculations or providing misinformation or things like that. It's an automated system. The calculations get fully vetted by actuaries and pension plan professionals. So that's some of the things you talked about. That's one of the reasons that I think you want to have a pension administration system, because it really reduces the risks of some of that happening. And the conversion to a new system is a big deal. We have to we review the data, we validate the data, we'll talk to the town about any data issues that we uncover. A lot of times it's we can clean up data by doing that. And then I already mentioned all the review that goes into the calculations. There's a lot of risk to Milliman if we aren't calculating things correctly. So we spend a ton of time making sure that the calculations are correct, and that's what we love to do is code those calculations and review them.
And Kevin really means that.
I do. That's a fun weekend for us. So.
Right. And I will say, the advantage of an expert system as opposed to an expert person is that systems never forget to do things. And Jen and I have been involved in a bunch of cleanup projects with a bunch of towns in Connecticut over things like average earnings was not being calculated properly, or employee contributions that for one of our clients are supposed to stop when an individual hits normal retirement date. But the people in the payroll department didn't know that and never stopped the employee contributions. And so years later, we had to go through a cleanup process. Well, systems don't forget things, right? They do it right. Once we set it up, ensure that it's right, the system is going to continue to do it right and never misses a beat. So now, and I don't have your full name on the screen, but you've been waiting patiently to ask a question.
Thank you, Becky. Eric Caliper here.
Eric.
I welcome the website. It looks like it's very data driven. So one of the complaints that town employees do have is that they feel like there is no personalized touch anymore as of late. And the term call center scares me a little bit. And I guess I have two asks. Number one is that you have this ability to contact the plan administrator, and when someone chooses that option, you know, how much time would it be, but when they get a return phone call or return email, so that they can have a point person, a point of contact to raise any issues with. And the second ask is that before you roll this out to all town employees, I think it would be advantageous if you rolled it out to the union presidents first, so that we could look at it as a beta. Some of the other things that we've rolled out in the past on the town side haven't been really thought through, and there have been a lot of missteps that have caused a lot of aggravation for us pension reps or other people who have to deal with the questions and get inundated with those issues. So that would be, I guess, two things I'd ask for. Number one, you know, what would be the response time for a plan administrator? And number two, could you please roll out a beta to us before you roll it out to the entire town?
Yeah, that's your second point is a great point. We've done that for other clients where we first roll it out to a smaller group of users and get feedback from them so that we can enhance the website before it gets rolled out to the entire group as a whole. So we would welcome that. That's a great idea. We're definitely wouldn't have any issues with that. You know, the personal touch. I use the word call center, but I do want to explain how our call center works, because we do not have what you might consider a typical call center. We have our call center people are trained to know pension plans. We don't, you know, they're not there to immediately hand off the call to someone else and transfer it. They're knowledgeable about your plan, and they have they've been trained on all the plans. You know, we're not administering 500 plans. You know, it's a much more manageable number, so we can train all the call center reps to have that knowledge, so that it doesn't feel like you're just you know, calling someone that is just going to end up handing you off. We do have people that will work specifically on this plan. So we don't have, you know, it's not going to be a group of 20 people that work on it. It's going to be a group of a couple people that work on it. So they are knowledgeable of the plan. And so when an email goes out to them, it'll go out to the couple people that work on the plan, and the response time will be quick. We can put service levels, you know, in the contract, because it's part of the standards that we have. So, you know, I can get you the exact response time on emails. You know, we have a table that tells us, or that tells our group, you know, how quickly we need to respond to emails, how quickly we need to respond to, you know, various things. Benefit election requests, how quickly do we have to get those forms out and things like that. So, you know, we have high standards for our group, and we follow those standards.
And you may have picked up that from listening to him that Kevin is more likely to be a Packers fan than a Patriots fan. That's where the call center is, right? So the people, we're not talking about people sitting in a warehouse in India answering the phone. We're talking about trained professionals in the Milwaukee area that who are dedicated to making sure the members get the information and answers that they need.
Does that answer all your questions, Eric?
Yes, Kevin, thank you very much.
Okay, sure, thanks. Any other questions about the participant experience?
Kevin, are you speaking? Are you muted?
Me?
No, Kevin Shadeen.
Oh, sorry.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Can you give us some idea on the payback or the cost benefit analysis of doing an outsourced program versus an in-house program? I know there's a lot of value in the services you guys provide that a town like Fairfield maybe can't. But more on the financial side, how have other municipalities experienced using you guys versus doing this in-house?
Sure. And some of the value comes in financial, some of it comes in some of the other ways that we've talked about. But from a financial standpoint, it reduces the need for staff to administer the pension plan, which can be sometimes multiple staff or less staff. But one of the issues with less staff is response time. So we'll always have enough staff so that the response times are minimal. So there's value gained in the response times. As far as the financials, I think the biggest is the actual staff that are currently working on the pension plan and the amount of time. Sometimes even it's the pension plan is taking away from time that they could be spending on other things and enhancing other benefit programs or what have you. So that's the primary. I think the biggest value is not a hard fixed financial cost up front. It's really the safety of reducing the risk of I think having a group perform the pension administration that does pension administration every day. It reduces the risk, and risk carries with it a big price tag if things go sideways. So, I think that, like I said, that's not a hard cost savings up front, but it is, I think, something that factors in, because when you reduce the risk, you're really possibly saving the plan lots of money down the road.
Thank you. I agree with that. I'm sure quality of service is probably a priority that you guys measure too, that maybe people working for a town can't match.
Right. Well, Kevin, it's our day job. It's not something that's done on the side along with other duties. We live and breathe defined benefit plans. A lot of what we're living and breathing is defined benefit plans sponsored by municipalities, which are a specialty area. Jen and I are specialists as actuaries in being specialists in defined benefit plans that are sponsored by municipalities. And the system has been fine-tuned to be able to handle the things that come up in public plans and not typically in corporate plans.
Right. I didn't mention that, but I've discussed the plan provisions with Becky and Jen, and have gone over those. And there's nothing in the town plans that we haven't seen, that we haven't coded in the system. So, that's the good news. I'm not saying that it's easy. There's still some fun things in the plans, but it's all stuff that we've seen and things that we live and breathe every day. So, so we can definitely do it.
Kevin, could you just give the JRIB a sense for how many plans use the system and about how many members it is total?
Sure. We have about 70 total clients on the system. Some of those have multiple plans, so the number of plans is, I think, around 150. From a plan participant standpoint, we're around 700,000 total participants are on our system. So I can move on quickly here to I want to be respectful of everyone's time, to the administration website. So this is a website that both Milliman and the town will have access to. This is not something that all the employees and members would have access to, just the people involved in the pension administration. And that's regardless of who's performing the calculations and doing the various pieces of administration. So when we work with municipalities where Milliman is performing the administration, they still have access, and we can do certain reporting on this homepage here. That for things that they need for the pension committee or various things. So they have access to this and can see certain reporting and things like that.
So in your situation, likely that would be Jim and maybe a couple of members of his staff that would be able to access all of the information that Kevin's showing you so that they could monitor the activity, pull out information on an ad hoc basis, provide statistics for you. One of the things Jen and I really love is that there's a button in here that will spit out the data we need to do the valuation. Just
Yeah,
like,
that's a big benefit for the actuaries, and a big time saver. Sometimes that's something that takes the individuals administering the plan a long time to sort through the census data and provide that information. With our system, as Becky said, there'll be ongoing payroll imports that will keep the data up to date. We'll move people to inactive statuses when they terminate and retire, put them into pay, and so we can click a button here. You'll see this. There's an export script for actuarial valuation extract, and we click a button, and that produces the file for the actuaries. So it greatly reduces the time and the back and forth that usually happens in that process.
right. And I think it's a real benefit to have things happen, have things be triggered when we get a payroll feed. So we get a the September whatever payroll feed, it indicates that somebody terminated employment. Well, we can launch right into that process of determining are they vested or not. If they're not vested, they do a refund of contributions. Let's get that process underway. If they're vested, let's calculate their benefit right away and store it. If they're eligible for retirement, we'll get the information out to them about what their pension benefit looks like and are they interested in going ahead and commencing benefits, right? So it's all triggered by the information that comes in on the payroll feed.
Even if we haven't heard from a participant that they want to retire or that they're terminating, we get that payroll feed. It has them as being terminated, and then we produce the proper paperwork based on whether they're eligible for retirement or not vested so it's kind of an automated process on our end to make sure that no one slips through the cracks, and we can be proactive and send that information out so that they have that information shortly after they terminate.
I'd like to make sure that we kind of stay on time with our agenda.
Sure.
Want to make sure you have the time to kind of finish the demo, but we're getting to the closing minutes.
Sure. So I don't have to go into too much. We did give a demo to Jim and Cheryl of the full system, but this is the administration system. So this is it's going to have all the pension data, all the payroll data. It's going to have information for whether they have a DRO and beneficiaries. And I don't need to show you all that. You can see here that we have a bunch of tabs for employee contributions and various pieces. And we have the ability to have flags identify unique situations. We use the comments whenever someone calls in so that we're tracking all calls. And then correspondence is any document that gets sent to us or any document that we send to the member. So the system's going to have everything that we need. It's going to do all the calculations. Here's a list of some of the calculations, statements, estimates, active termination, death benefit reports, things like that. So I can demo anything that you want to see, but I also don't want to bore you with some of the minutia of the system. But the goal of the system is to store the data, properly update the data, and then produce accurate calculations. And so that's what our system does.
Right. So I think of it, my mental image is always of, we've taken the file cabinet and squished it down electronically, and going forward, that file cabinet is just maintained on a purely electronic basis, and it's hooked up directly to this calculation engine. So everything that's needed to deliver benefits to people is contained within the system.
So is there anything else that you want me to show you, or any other questions you have about either the websites or the pension administration in general?
So something that I'd like to propose to the JRIB is, if there's desire to do further diligence, and I suspect that there is, given the makeup of the JRIB, that perhaps we have a very small, we kind of have a small diligence team. If somebody would like, maybe we have 3 of us would like to volunteer to just spend a little bit more time in there and understanding it. And then as part of it, we'd like to understand kind of the cost of it.
Sure.
Because this would be a new cost that the JRIB would be asked to cover. And so the cost is going to be of utmost importance to us. So firstly, if I have anyone who'd be interested, anyone? Don't, Eric, Caliper?
I would. Oh, I would.
Who?
Chris.
Chris, okay,
Sorry.
okay.
So is the proposal to eliminate the benefits manager?
I'll speak to that. The answer is absolutely not.
Okay.
I think people don't understand that the benefits manager was not the pension administrator until very recently. That activity was done by, I think, somebody in the risk management function, and that activity was given, I would say, dumped on the benefits manager, who then took it on, and it's clear that it's really not resourced properly. So there's no plan. The town is not planning on eliminating the benefits manager.
So, I feel, I'd like to understand the cost of it. I'd like to understand, I mean, this is something we want to talk about, and kind of how that works. And if there are any fabulous cost savings that come from having you both as our actuary and our administrator, especially since all you're going to do is hit that button. Kind of what that will look like. This may not be the forum for that. Jared and Jim, I mean, this kind of, as you said, it's kind of been accelerated. I'm curious as to how you would, if you want us to move into the financial, the cost side of this now, or should we follow up on that for next month's meeting?
I don't know were those sent out to you, because I thought I had sent them to Jared. I didn't know if they went out or not.
Okay, I did not forward those. I can send those on. I wasn't sure, Jim, if you were at that point of wanting to share that, but we can definitely get that out.
So we have provided estimated fees. It does include a discount for the fact that Milliman is also the actuary. And I don't want to put pressure on this group. I think the reason that this is being accelerated a little is just that it is a long process to set up a system to convert the data and validate the data and all that. It's an important decision, so certainly you need to, to ask the questions and do what you need to do. But I think that's why it's been slightly accelerated, because I communicated to Jim that it is around a 9-month process from start to finish to set up a new system.
Well, I would think this is something that if, we're certainly capable as a group of moving quickly and thoroughly. And I think breaking down into a smaller team to just do the right and proper diligence, and then, give us an opportunity to understand the fee structure. Perhaps we can bring this back next month on the agenda for discussion. Chris, you have a
And
question?
before then, I'd be happy to give to meet with a smaller group, give a more detailed demo, go into more detail about what Milliman's pension administration group would do for various administration functions. So we're more than happy to do that.
I haven't seen the cost, but I mean, is it does, and I felt sorry if you guys covered this. This doesn't fall under the RFP process, either on the town side or our side? I just want to make sure we're not overstepping our bounds here. And if it's quasi relationship between us and the town, how do the town purchasing rules get into play here and stuff like that? So I just want to make sure all our bases are covered.
Yeah, we'll have to get approval from the Board of Selectmen.
If you recall, Chris, we actually included administrative services into the RFPs.
I did. I just didn't know if we didn't contract with them, if that was it's all wrapped up into that, or if
Yeah, no, and we left the ability, the way the RFP was written, to have them separate. So we could have gone with 2 different firms. But for sure we asked for that capability when we did the original RFP.
Right, and just to be clear, Madam Chair, just to be clear that the approval from the Board of Selectmen would be to enter into the contract, not to approve in the RFP, but to enter into the contract for this portion of the services, for the administrative services.
Yeah.
Sorry, one more question. Who would ultimately oversee this work, though? On a global basis, would it be the board, and on a day-to-day basis be someone in the town, or who are they ultimately accountable and beholden to? If we enter into this relationship, is it us as the board?
I think, Chris, it is that. I think you described it very well, as with the actuarial services as well. The JRIB is the pension administrator, but the town has day-to-day functionality, and there's a partnership. I'd also say that in terms of a contract, we typically structure a separate contract for the administrative services, but it will just mirror word for word all of the contractual provisions we worked out with the town. It will just have a different set of services that are included.
And if it expedites the process, we can have it be, an amendment to the contract that already exists. We just usually keep it separate because it's not a requirement that, that Milliman is the actuary and the performing the plan administration.
Any other questions or concerns?
All right.
Okay. So Carolyn, if you want to reach out to me, we can coordinate schedules. I can see Kevin's schedule, and between the two of us, we can find times for your working group for a deeper dive and a demonstration and your due diligence process.
Great. And I think we can dual track that, understanding that this will be done in partnership with the town. So I think we have to spend a little bit of time understanding that better. But fully respecting the length of time it would take for the conversion to happen. I'm very happy and very grateful to you for coming in and presenting this demo to us and to my fellow members here on the JRIB for taking the time to understand it. We know this was kind of came in last minute, but I'm very happy that we were able to start this conversation, and we can move quickly.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity to show you the system, and we're happy to meet with a smaller group and go into more detail.
Terrific. All right, we will we'll catch up with you on that tomorrow then.
All right.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. So to be continued. Anyone have any kind of quick post thoughts on that?
I have a quick, just a comment.
Jared, yeah.
And I think the presenters kind of touched on it, but this I think in the situation in our HR department now really puts a microscope on this. But I think the huge benefit to doing this and going with Milliman to do these administrative services is the continuity. We don't, we're in a situation now where there could be some turnover of employees, and to have to bring someone in now and get them trained up on everything that needs to be done is a monumental task, especially given some of the nuances and details of the pension plan. And to have this in the hands of a professional organization who, as Becky pointed out, this is their day job, and to know that, if they have policies and processes and people in place to handle this, if there is turnover on their end. So I think that's one of the greatest benefits. We don't have control all the time over who leaves, when they leave, unfortunately. And so to be able to have this kind of continuity is a great benefit to the beneficiaries.
I'd like to follow up on that. Just, from my perspective, I think this is something we should be doing for the benefit of our members. Like, I think this should be part of the core function that we do. And if there is a far superior mousetrap in the administration of these benefits to our members, I think this falls right in to something that our funds should be funding.
I'll echo that, Carol. And again, as a potential user of the system, regardless of if Milliman or whoever works out, we do need to go down this road and get modern age. I mean, and the consistency. I mean, one of the things that I've always never liked about the pension side was that the inconsistency of the reports, the not trusting the numbers as much. And I think either putting our faith in a company like this or someone else, if they don't be the ones that passed our muster, is what we've got to go down that road and provide the tools and the interactivity or the access to the data easier for our constituents is the top priority going forward.
All right.
Can I just say something quickly?
Yeah.
Just to give you a sense. So, and I'm not here to sort of doom and gloom this, but I think some of the shocking things that you don't even have any understanding about is draws full of folks in my office who have not been refunded their pension contributions. And that is over very long periods of time. And I was appalled when I started. There's no effort to go back and find a lot of these people, and we have their money. So, I was hearkened to hear that the system, at least, has a pre-generated process where they initiate that process to refund people, particularly contributions. Look, we always know when somebody's going to retire. It's when somebody leaves and there's contributions sitting there, and there's no effort to return those contributions. And that's historical. It's, I don't want to say decades, but it's when I got there and I asked, there's multiple draws of people who have not been returned their contributions. And I asked, and they pointed to one draw and said, the prior director said, don't even bother with those. It's just, it's obscene as far as I'm concerned. And that's unfortunate, and it is where it is. And to me, that's the real reason to straighten some of this out, because there's there's a lack of what I consider pension structures in the town. It's just, Quadro administration is troubling to me. There's just a whole bunch of things that, at least with a centralized platform, we would, I think, have better comfort that at least the data is being tracked properly. And now I don't have to worry that we've distributed someone's pension when there was a Quadro in place. So, and that's a recent problem that we have last week. So, this is a concern that I share, because it's not, I'm not trying to place fault, but it's just a lack of decades of proper pension administration. I've raised this issue with others about the lack of pension documents. There's no plan documents in the town for the pension plans. So I have talked to Richard Cohen about that in the last couple of weeks. There was an effort a couple of years ago to do it, and never happened. And there's really good reasons to have plan documents so that we're not sitting around in a room trying to figure out what's supposed to happen in certain circumstances. So, I think this is the first step to try to fix what I consider really a lack of institutional controls over the pension system.
Eric Caliper, you had your hand raised. Do you have
Yeah, Jim just said something very concerning, and I want to kind of dial in the liability of that. Jim's telling us now that we now have money in the pension trust that's due to be returned with interest. I think we need to have that assessed immediately and find out what the liability to the pension trusts are on that. This is the first I'm hearing of this.
Well, I'm surprised that that's the case, because the pension board voted on a percentage to give people back when they leave their contributions on file, which I frankly have not seen that in a pension system. There's some process, which is what the true irony is when we reach out to some people, they don't want their money back because I believe we're paying them 4% on their earnings, which is something I've never heard of. So you now get people who say, well, no, we want to leave our money there. And I don't know why the town allowed people to do that, but I know that's the case. To me, we should just refund them their money and be done with it. It's not an option to get 4% interest on their money.
Well, if I could, Madam Chair, if you could, it would really, to get some transparency on that for the next meeting or the meeting after, to know what that liability is to the pension trust. Those are current assets that we're identifying as we're getting returns on that we really shouldn't be holding.
I agree. I think we should get our arms around that quickly. We can cover that with the next meeting. Kind of get a sense of the size and scope of that. It's possible.
Well, the contributions are accounted for. You've taken the money in. They just haven't been returned. That's historical. You over the years, that's certainly been taken into account in your actuary reports, because it's a fund income that you have. Money came in, you just didn't give it back. So and I don't think it's a lot of money, it's just a lot of people, because clearly it's not a lot of money, because most of these people weren't here very long. That's why they didn't get vested. It's relatively small amounts, and it's relatively too many people.
So I just want to clarify your statement, Jim, and let's make sure we're clear. Do we owe these people their money back, or under the current agreement, are they allowed to keep the money in return of 4% interest?
We should be returning them their money. We took the money in and didn't return the money when they didn't get a pension vesting.
But again, I guess my question is, the accounting of the 4%, is that going on forever? So I mean, I'm curious on Eric's question a little bit. You didn't really answer that.
I just know that there was some resolution. I don't know when it got passed, but it was a pension board resolution.
We have a date on that. I mean,
determined people should get 4% on their earnings. So, that's sort of what I know about it. I don't know the history behind it.
I can speak. I can speak on that because I have that resolution in my desk because it was brought up a few years ago. And it was done by the pension boards, 3.5% interest for town and Board of Ed employees and 4% on uniform. And somebody looked at it to change it years ago, but it hasn't been changed. That's the interest rate when they get their contributions returned. That's the interest rate we've been calculating on giving them back with their money.
So again, like I said, do we need to have a legal consultation on this in the sense that is that resolution, or do we have to pass a new resolution that we, you know, could they keep their money forever? We can't give it back to them. They say, no, we don't want it back. Just keep it there.
No, I don't think-
till I take it.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't think you need a legal opinion on that. I just think we should have a long time ago shipped them their money back. There's no basis for them to leave the money in the pension plan.
No, I get it. I understand that, but I just don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen the resolution. I think it predates my time on the board. But if it says you're allowed to keep your money here until they request it back, then we can't give it back to them unless I don't know how it's written.
Unless we write a
We need a
resolution.
legal opinion on that.
I don't think it's a request. It's just that we didn't do it. So that's, I don't think there's anything that prevents us at this point to
So
just take a wholesale exercise to refund the contributions.
we're not going to be able to solve this
Right.
here and now during this meeting. But I think this is an incredibly important issue and topic and discovery that speaks, you know, to liability management, right? To the assets we bring in and the way that we run the plan. And so I think kind of two things. I think one, I'd like to understand it better, and perhaps you can come back to us next month, Jim, and figure out a way to help us understand the size of this, the magnitude of this, and if there are any things that we should, any resolutions or votes that we can take to amend it if we need to. And then secondly, I think we got to refund this money. we have to find a way to refund this money. And if that means we do this as part of a transition over to an administrator who picks up all of this stuff, recalculates all the numbers, and then gives us the numbers, and then we do it, then we do that as part of the process. But I think we absolutely have to understand it, and we've got to do right by the members. So to be continued next month. In the meanwhile, I think we have a small team to kind of come in and help diligence the administrative offering by Milliman as a start, and we need to get a sense of the ongoing annual fees associated for the service. Okay, so with that, did we lose people? Seeing a weird thing on my screen.
I think Nick might have hit share. Nick might have hit sharing your screen, I think.
Someone sharing? Okay. Well, let's move on. Jim, thank you for coming and thank you for raising this. We have Jared with us still? Okay.
He already left.
All right, guys, let's move on. We will come back to this. Okay, we will come back to this. I'd like to keep going. We have quite a bit of meeting left here. Performance review by Vanguard is up next. Brian, thank you for bearing with us.
Yeah, no, our pleasure. Good to see everyone virtually. I'm glad we were all there in person last time.
Yeah.
Carolyn, would you be able to, or I don't know if Chris is on, to share the screen again of the presentation?
I don't have the screen on this computer to share.
Okay. Let me see what I can do. Let's see.
But as far, in waiting for that to come up, I will keep everything kind of brief and punchy. I know it's been a long meeting so far, and just give you a quick update.
You're the best.
Yeah, where we are, with 2 months into the new fiscal year. The last time we were out was end of July, because we took August off, and we reviewed everything from the end of the fiscal year, which was quite strong and quite positive. And so I'll when we get anything, I'll just do a quick update as of the last 2 months.
I'm bringing it up just a
Okay.
second.
I have it here, so.
As do I. I can share my screen too.
See if it pops up this time. All right.
Got it. I see it.
Okay. Yeah. Whoops. Sorry. That's really big. Okay.
Now, I'll start right on the fourth page, and I always invite everyone to interject with any questions as I'm going through this. Anything I remiss to include. Here on this slide 4, just looking at the capital markets as we always do. This is looking at the 3 months, year to date, and 1 year returns. Those are the 3 bars. I'll give you the quarter to date numbers, which coincides with your fiscal year to date, and that'll also show up on your performance reports. But you know, the quick highlight here is really that third bullet. You know, the S&P's had 53 record highs year to date, so it's been an astounding climb. I mean, that's reflected in those year-to-date numbers. You see the U.S. market up over 20%, and that's a calendar year-to-date. So I just mentioned, give the committee just a quick update on the quarter-to-date, how the indices did. U.S. still outperforming. I mean, quarter-to-date up 4.6. The international markets still lagging, only up 0.6%, but still positive. And then rates have still moved down a little bit. We'll see what happens, if anything, tomorrow. So with rates moving down, the Barclays aggregate, the U.S. fixed income market up 1% on a quarter to date basis. So yeah, on page 5, yes, as far as the rates are concerned, this just shows the yield curve over different time horizons. The green bar is kind of like when we met the last time, and you could see how that yield curve, or the blue line, has shifted down the last several months. And so with falling interest rates, fixed income does better. So that'll carry over to the next slide when we look at the actual performance of the plan. So what does that mean for the plan, the pension plan first on the fiscal year to date? You see that 1.99%. I'm going to bring up my screen. It's a little small, but yeah, the 1.99% on a fiscal year-to-date basis through the end of August. As far as the asset allocation policy at the bottom of the page, we always monitor this, and we're within all of our tolerances of plus or minus 5% at the major asset classes. What I will give it a quick update on is there's been a lot of cash flow that's happened the last couple of months and will happen. Just a quick update there is, each month we pay the benefit payments. So in August, 2.6 million, we raised cash. That's reflected in the cash number at the bottom. And we raised 2.2 million that went out on September 1st. And as a reminder, we use those cash flows to rebalance the target. Other things, just as it relates to the private equity piece, in August, we had over $1.7 million of distributions from the private equity partners. So we've got that reinvested. And then we have a couple of calls coming in, that have happened in September. This is just through August, so it's not reflected here. And then also in September, not reflected here, is their employer, the town, made contribution, I think in the ballpark of $12 million. So not reflected on this report, but just some cash flow that's been happening in the month of September. Page 2, yeah, Carol, this is just gonna highlight the numbers I talked about just a little bit ago, just focusing on that year-to-date column. The 4 funds are just exactly what I said. So U.S. markets up over 4%, international just positive, just slightly, 0.44% on an international stock fund. You see the total bond market index up 1% fiscal year to date. And then total international bond for the diversification is actually up slightly more, 1.1. The private equity and the private real estate, no updates here because it's on a lagged basis. So next quarter or the next meeting, we would expect to have the second quarter returns for the private equity holdings and the private real estate, the principal fund. So we'll give an update at that time on how those values have changed. Just briefly on the OPEB page 10, same performance at the fund level. However, with the slightly higher equity allocation, just the absolute performance is higher. So 2.37% is the return for the OPEB plan, slightly higher than the pension. Really not any cash flow that I recall happening the last couple of months in the OPEB plans. So I promised to be kind of punchy and brief, and that's a quick update with regards to the performance. Continue to be positive, so it's a good thing. Maybe I'll turn it over to Jack or to Carolyn on the private equity discussion. What we have included in this section is we've just updated some of the cash flow slides that we've discussed at prior meetings. The difference from the meeting 2 months ago is we ran 2 different scenarios. We ran keeping Harbor. So last meeting, just as a recap, there was a confirmation to invest in HarborVest and to also bring the private equity allocation to 10%. The question was, would all that new allocation go all to HarborVest, or would it be with the current partners? So there's 2 scenarios here as far as the cash flow modeling. One is just a 5% allocation to HarborVest. The other is a 10% allocation to HarborVest. And then as it relates to the OPEB plan, we did 2 sets of cash flow modeling for each plans, because the way they're administered, People's Bank, there's a separate OPEB plan for the fire and police and for the employees. So it's just looking at the cash flow modeling of a 10% allocation to HarborVest for both OPEB plans. So I just wanted the committee to have all of the cash flow data, but I wasn't going to go into that at this point until there was more of a discussion around the investments themselves, unless you'd like me to.
No, I think right now I'd like to turn it back over to Jack. I think the right order of this would be for him to kind of carry us all the way through on all of the work that he has done on the private side. We did vote, right, to amend the IPS to make room for the allocations to private equity in OPEB. But regarding the managers, Jack, do you mind? Can we turn it to you?
Sure. So at the end of last meeting, we had agreed that I would go out and try to do an apples to apples comparison between Mesereau and Lexington and HarborVest, which I did. I sent the notes to Carolyn today, and I think she'll forward to everyone out after the call. I'd like to caveat my comments by just stating whatever I state is my understanding at this point, and everyone can go through the data when you receive the email. So trying to get to an apples to apples really is a little bit difficult. Everyone prices their offerings differently. The offerings are different. The HarborVest offering is probably the most comprehensive. I think there's, more or less about 60% primaries, maybe 25% secondaries, and 15% co-investment. That compares to Mesereau, which is a co-investment strategy almost exclusively, and then the Lexington is almost exclusively just doing secondaries. So, for either of those, we'd have to kind of pick which strategy we want and go with that. From a fee standpoint, Brian and I were going back and forth today, and Brian, I do have one clarifying question for you on that. The fee, the management fee, is that the 21 basis points? Is that the entire management fee, or is that just the fee to Vanguard?
No, the 21 basis points is the fee to HarborVest, the management fee to HarborVest. There is no fee to Vanguard. There's no separate fee. The other fee, or the other component, is out there is to the underlying general partners for the primary investments, but we don't know what those will be ahead of time. in the fee document that I sent is, HarborVest has estimated those based on, previous or like size funds. So roughly a fee, I believe it was around 1% for the underlying general partners, but the only fee, well, hard management fee to HarborVest is 21 basis points.
Yeah,
And
okay.
then any carry, and then there is no separate fee to Vanguard for the fund.
Yeah, okay, so fair enough. So let's call that 1%. Let's call that a management fee. Because it kind of is, or is it just expenses?
You can call for the Vanguard HarborVest fund, you can call the management fee. I think it would be fair to call it 1.2 or 1.24%.
Yeah, okay.
When you make an assumption for the underlying partners and then the fee for HarborVest. So I would call it, the 1.21 to 1.24.
Yeah, okay. So from a management fee, and actually one more question, Brian, while I have you, there's an 8% hurdle. The preferred return is 8% for HarborVest. Beyond that, HarborVest will start participating in the profits at 12.5%. I guess my question that I didn't articulate very well today was, after 8%, does HarborVest get 100% of the 12.5, the next 12.5? Or after the 8%, do they get the 12.5 and we get the 87.5 forever?
Yeah, it's that latter piece.
Okay.
So any return over 8%, let's call it HarborVest takes 12.5% of the profits above 8%, that hurdle, and the investors get the remaining. So call it around to 88%. So that's what it is, and the 8% hurdle, 12.5% carry to HarborVest.
Okay, so fair enough. So Carolyn, I think I'll keep discussing this. I think the more we talk about it, the more confusing it's going to get, just trying to break things down without people trying to see a spreadsheet of what's what. I think the task at hand, let me just talk about the length of time for the funds and how long we will be invested in them. So Mesirow and Lexington are both estimated at about 10 years with 3 one-year extensions. HarborVest is 14 years with 3 one-year extensions. From a management fee standpoint, HarborVest is kind of in the middle. Mesirow is about 1% management fee, and then the Lexington, as I understand it, is pretty high. That's at about 1.8. And then, as Brian said, HarborVest would be kind of somewhere in the middle, more or less, although it's not exact. We don't know. With Lexington, we do know because those investments have already been made. But HarborVest is going to be somewhere around 1.21, 1.2. Let's call it that. The preferred return and the hurdle, they're reasonably the same, but it's more favorable to Fairfield to go with HarborVest. They have an 8% return, whereas the other two have a 7%. So stated a different way, we will be participating in they will be participating in carry interest, that is Mesirow and Lexington, sooner than HarborVest would. Happy to answer any other questions. I think what we're trying to determine tonight is, are we going to allocate to the others, or is it just going to be HarborVest? And if we want to make a vote, if it's just HarborVest, to what point, to what extent? Is that correct?
That is correct. That's our goal.
Okay. Sorry, that was so messy.
That's all right. I mean, the diligence you've done, the analysis you've done, certainly demonstrates to me at least that HarborVest is very much in the ball game, and is probably the right direction that I'd like to see the allocation go to. We've got two tracks here. One's going to be pension, right, and then we'll be talking about OPEB. And it's going to go part and parcel with our investment policy statement amendment. At the last meeting, guys, Bruce, I'm not sure if you're still with us here, I mean, we made the motions, they've carried unanimously to create a private equity allocation to for the OPEB funds to private equity between 0 and 15% with a target of 10%. Maybe we want to start there with OPEB. I think we'd like to propose a few votes. Not quite sure how to proceed, Jack, and other than to simply put, do we put a 10% allocation on the table for OPEB for private equity with HarborVest?
I mean, I would be comfortable with that suggestion, but do other people, do they have questions? Or, my opinion going through this, I would be in favor in this order of HarborVest. If we were going to allocate anywhere else, it would be then to Mesereau. And I would leave Lexington out. One, they are up for sale. I don't know how long they have been up for sale, but their fees are really quite high. I'm not saying that their returns couldn't potentially, outpace that fee, but their fund that they're raising is 15 billion. I mean, to give you an idea, Mesereau is 400 million. I mean, the Lexington is a very big fund, and I think that they're a excellent company, but I think they're flexing their muscle on how much they're charging people to get in.
Hey Jack, I wasn't on the last meeting, but for OPEB, because the absolute dollars that we'd be investing are less, are the fees the same as they would be under the main pension fund?
Yeah, they are. I think the break point on, I think it was $1 billion, if I recall correctly, for HarborVest, and it was very high for all of them. It was lower, I think, for Mesereau. I mean, their fund is only 400 million, but from a fee standpoint, I think you'd still be paying more.
If I can just make just one comment, and I think the important thing that you mentioned, Jack, earlier is the structure of the fund. So whereas HarborVest is diversified across the different types, and the Mesereau fund, I believe you said it all co-investments. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe not 100%, but pretty
Well,
close.
yeah, right. Most or majority, yeah. And that makes sense of why we a smaller fund and usually carries a lower fee because they don't have to pay as much out to a general partner. So that's the advantage of having co-investments in general as an asset class in private equity, because you're not paying out as much to the general partners. What I mean by that is to think of the funds that the fund would invest with, a KKR or Blackstone or
Sure.
Silver Lake, etc. Yeah.
Removing a layer. Yeah.
Right.
So Carolyn, is there a motion or a discussion, or are we?
We made a motion that was carried at the last meeting to initiate a relationship with HarborVest, right? To commence the docs, which we've done. What we didn't do was to make a motion to make a specific allocation of the funds toward HarborVest or toward Mesereau or Lexington. Okay. We did kind of come through and we did vote an allocation to private equity. We just didn't ascribe it, right? We didn't determine with whom. So that's the motion. If someone would like to make it, in that we would start with, I think, and Brian Binkley, help me with this. I mean, with the pension, we already have our investments in the pension fund in private equity. And so this would be to initiate kind of a new relationship that we would then feed as we go along. So two different things. Why don't we tackle OPEB first? Because I think it's going to be easier because we're not talking about 3 private equity managers. We're talking about 1, right? And so, I will make, Bruce Ryan, I still see you here. I don't know if you're able to, if you're hearing us or able to hop on, but you were so helpful last month on this. I'm wondering if you want to jump in. Nope. Guess he must be away from the phone for a moment. So I will go ahead and I mean, if you don't mind, I'll make the motion. I mean, I'd like to move that we allocate, that we establish a relationship in private equity with HarborVest for the OPEB funds, up to a target 10% allocation.
I would second that motion.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Okay, I'll ask for a vote on it. All in favor of that, say aye.
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 A lot of
Aye.
hands here. Okay, any opposed? Any abstain?
I'll abstain.
Okay, Chris Brand is abstained. There we go. That motion has passed. Now regarding pension.
Kathy, who seconded that motion?
Tom McCarthy seconded.
Thank you.
You're welcome. On the pension front, this is a little more nuanced. We are obviously not exiting the existing vendors we have. This is simply, do we want to split the future allocation among 1, 2, or 3 private equity firms? From what I heard Jack describe, with Lexington being for sale, I'm disinclined to allocate right now additional capital toward Lexington. I am, would like to open the discussion to whether or not we want to split an allocation, forward allocations to Mesereau and HarborVest, or we want to just focus on HarborVest going forward. Anyone want to? Eric?
I'll go first. So I think our current position is 6% right now in private equity, split between the two. I think I would like to see, sorry for the dog in the background. I would like to see the raising of up to 10% going to HarborVest. So half to HarborVest and then split the difference between the current positions and commitments to Mesereau and Lexington.
I would agree uplifting to 10%.
Okay, and we did the 10%, guys, at the last meeting. I think we're there on 10%. It's just how do we allocate it? Just with whom? So you're thinking is to split it evenly?
I like that idea better. I just said it's, you can compare one to the other performance over time. It's just helpful, I think.
Just so I'm clear, are we saying that currently we're at 6%, a split amongst Lexington and Mesereau? We're going to invest an additional 4% to get up to 10, and that 4% is going to be split between Mesereau and HarborVest?
Yeah, I'm gonna share this with you guys.
Yeah, maybe that's where the cash flow modeling slides come in to Scott's point, is that so the existing private equity investments will slowly run off as we get distribution. Some of the funds are quite old. I'm trying to look for the best page to graph that. Maybe let's call it 18. Well, let's go to 20. Slide 22, if you could, since it's talking about a 10% allocation.
Yes, hang on, I'm coming. Let's see. Do you see it?
Yeah.
18.
And then maybe go to 22. This is 5%. So this is looking at, okay, we want to get to a 10% allocation at the pension plan. So if you did nothing, right? I mean, the gray bar is your existing investments, and those run off over time. And so the target, making it 10% of the portfolio here, this is just all the different colors, the rainbow, are different vintages. This is just assuming all investments into HarborVest. And we would build that allocation over time. Like, you know, you can't get there, or maybe you don't want to get there all at once because then you're putting so much money into one fund. The whole idea behind investing each year is because there's different vintages, different investments that come up in the private equity space. So this gives you a sense of how long it would take to build. We're talking about 3 years or so to build to that 10% allocation. And it's accounting for, and this will be an ongoing exercise, it's accounting for making assumptions for how long it'll take the existing investments in the gray to run off and then the new ones to build up. And I say it's ongoing because capital calls or distributions, that they're at the mercy of the private equity manager. So we'll just have to keep modeling those. So hopefully this maybe gets a sense. So I think the question that was out there is, okay, the new allocation, if we just stayed at HarborVest at 5%, all new allocation to get to 5% would be with HarborVest. And we're over allocated right now, but we have to start allocating now so it doesn't drop off too much. That's the slide on page 15. And so then the vote to the JRIB is like, okay, if we're going to 10%, which the motion's been made, should all the new money go to HarborVest or should it be split? Hopefully I articulated that well and that makes sense to everyone.
So going back to that colorful slide, if we allocate all of the new future investments to HarborVest, by 2023, we'll have half of our commitment to HarborVest and the other half will be in Mesereau and Lexington. And then we could reevaluate later.
Yeah, there would still be, that's right. I mean, that's fair because it's going to take a while. You have 2 funds that were started in 2017, right? There was a fund with Mesereau in 2017 and Lexington in 2017. So we're actually still getting capital calls from them. So you're going to have those investments for 2 of the funds for a while. So I think that's a good way to put it, Eric. And the older vintages with Lexington and Mesereau from 2013 or 29, those are coming to an end. So regardless, you'll still have some monies with the existing managers for, you could see it goes out for a while.
Okay. So, okay, so I was so distracted trying to share my screen. Do we have a motion? Where are we?
I'll make the motion.
Tom?
Couple of allocation of 10% equally split between Mesereau and HarborVest.
Okay. May I have asked for a second? Nick? Okay, second. Perfect. Any
So
discussion?
is there a
second.
discussion?
Thank you, Nick. Okay. All in favor of the motion?
Carolyn, so can I just make a comment? So this is not what Eric had proposed, right? And Eric's good with that?
Eric is good with that.
Yeah, okay.
Equally split. Okay. All right. Then let's move to a vote. The motion is a 10% allocation to private equity in the pension fund with the increase, right? We're not selling existing managers, with the journey we travel to get from current to 10% evenly split between Mesereau and HarborVest.
Stay with you.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
All right.
You're going to choose the color you want. Ready?
Aye.
Any opposed? And abstain? Chris Brand will abstain. All right. Wonderful, guys. Thank you for that. Okay, we have so we have a little math we have to do moving forward, and that's going to be the IPS. So let me share with you. I sent you this email, and I changed it a little bit. Make sure you guys can see that screen. The yellow highlighted is the proposed new IPS allocations. That that are both the 10% private equity allocation for both pension and for OPEB. And as you see in our target allocations, we are now, we're over 100% allocated. So something has to come out, okay, on the targets. The bands are fine, but on the target, I just want you to take a look at that. I'd like to introduce some discussion around what we can reduce by 5% target allocation in pension and by 10% in OPEB.
No, I'd be glad to help
Yep.
here, Carolyn, just provide a perspective, you know, is from an asset allocation perspective. So at the big level, we think of private equity as it says, is within the equity allocation. You know, so whether it's public equity or private equity, that's to provide growth to the portfolio. So when we fund private equity, we would typically fund that out of your public equities. So the public, you know, I would make the proposal that the public equity allocations would come down, and the private equity allocation you already have up here, you know, you already had a placeholder for 10. So to get to, you know, from 105 to 100, the allocations would come out of the public equities. I can give you the specific percentages, and that's how we would see it. So again, think of it as all as equities, and you could think of private equity as your active equity portion of the portfolio. Of course, there's different characteristics with liquidities and fees, and Jack talked about that. But think of it all under the bucket of equities.
And that's fine. I think that's the right approach. It's certainly easy to do on OPEB, right? That we would take the total equity allocation down from 70% to 60% in the target. My question would be, how should we split that between U.S. and non-U.S.?
Sure. So should I address the pension or the OPEB?
So let's do OPEB first because that's the easy one.
Okay, so OPEB, then what I would propose for the allocations to keep it consistent with where the split is between your U.S. equity and your international equity right now.
Yeah.
So the OPEB allocations, I would make U.S. equity 36%, non-U.S. equity 24%. The reason for that is if you added those up, and the split between U.S. and international equity would be roughly 60-40. And then you have the 10%, which you already have placeholder for private equity.
Okay.
So 36 and 24. And again, that split between U.S. and international equities is really where you're at right now.
And on the pension front?
And on the pension front, I would propose, you know, the U.S. allocation to be 30%, the international to be 20%, so that there's your 50, and then the 10% you have the placeholder right now for private equity. And again, that 30-20 is split 60-40. So it's consistent between the OPEB and the pension.
Right. So that's... All right. So, guys, what? Any thoughts
Go
on
back
that?
to that chart for a minute, Carolyn.
Yeah, I'm coming back. There we go. Okay.
No.
So equity becomes 50, US at 30, right? Non-US 20. And then you guys can see me doing this, right?
This is a little bit different allocation than we have right now in the publics between US and non-US, right? Because we're more than
less, right. So on the left side here with the green highlights, that's what's in our IPS.
right. So we're more than 60-40 US right now.
Okay. Let's say US goes to
Just slightly as far as the IPS, like kind of where we are from an actual dollar amount, I think we're at that 60-40.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't put the actual into this. I kind of threw this together late this afternoon just so I
Right.
could get oriented around the numbers to see them laid out this way. Okay. Are we good? It's very quiet. Is everybody thinking? I can't see you because I'm sharing my screen.
That's good.
Looks good. Okay.
It
All right.
worked.
Yeah, I got a question. This is Jared. Is the intention to keep, Brian, just for clarification, is the intention to keep the non-US target the same at 20%?
And then,
Oh, and pension.
well, in
Right.
pensions,
Right now it's showing
yeah,
as being the same as
yes,
what it
because
currently did.
yeah, because right, it's slightly more. It's like 63, 37. So yes, you'd keep the international target at 20. The U.S. allocation at 30. So, 30% of 50 is 60-40. So it'd be a 60-40 allocation both in the pension and in the OPEB. Yes.
Okay. Can I take?
And Brian, we think that's the correct allocation between US and non-US.
Yes, yes, that's really where our best thinking is right now, Scott. And some thoughts behind that is there's a couple of ones, and we may have talked about some of this in the past. Right now, as we look forward, so we look forward, we expect international markets to outperform the U.S. markets. So that's one piece. But it's maybe less about that as well. It's more of the risk return profile of the portfolio. So if you look at the global market capitalization of just the world right now, the allocation is split. Maybe US makes about 55%, 45%. So it's almost close to a world market capitalization as well. So we're very close to how the market is allocated. So that's the approach that we take, is a global approach. And so it keeps us kind of more aligned with the global market cap approaches, but also some favor, that split of 60-40 of how we kind of get there is we think the returns, as I mentioned, will be higher the next 10 years for international markets than US. I can get into why. But international markets do come with a little bit more volatility. And so that's why when we think about the allocation, the diversification benefits of adding international kind of stop around that 40% range. It's never precise, but that's the thinking of how we get to, or why we recommend that 60-40. Because there's the diversification of benefits, but as you increase past the 40% international, you likely bring up your volatility of the portfolio. So do we have some clients that go higher because of that return profile? Yes, but 60-40 is where we have a starting point.
Any other questions or thoughts on this? Somebody care to make a motion? I can put it back up if you want. So we have to vote this into the IPS, and this will count as our second update for the year. Nobody wants to make the motion?
I'll move to accept the changes as presented.
Okay. We have a second for that?
Eric Caliper, I'll second the motion.
Okay, thank you. All right, all in favor? Say aye.
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 Any object? Any opposed? Any abstain? All right. Thank you very much. I'll make sure that this gets into the updated IPS. Send it off to Jerry. We'll post it on the website as well. Thanks, guys. Almost done. Meeting schedule. So I wanted to bring up the idea, now that we've brought Vanguard in, we've really done a great job of professionalizing the effort here on the JRIF. And I wanted to broach the topic of, for next year, bringing the JRIF to quarterly meetings rather than monthly meetings. Not that I don't love you, but I do think that we've gotten to a point, and we will be at a point where we'll be down to a routine, and we'll be able to function pretty well if we meet less frequently. We have the ability and the need always to be able to call a meeting should something come up. But I wanted to ask your opinions on that. The only requirement in the town code and charter is that we meet at least 4 times a year.
I think it makes total sense. I've been on the board for 6 years now, and working in pensions in a previous time, I think it's unusual to meet monthly. And I think now that we've moved away from, thinking that we can pick managers proficiently, and we've moved to the OCIO model, and pretty much now, Vanguard's overseeing making certain decisions. I know a lot of it's passive, but I think we're at a point now where quarterly would make total sense. And like you said, if we need to pick up a meeting here or there, jump on a call, that's not a problem. But from a scheduling standpoint, I think quarterly is customary, and I would certainly, be in favor of moving toward that.
Does that affect the employees' retirement? If people are applying for retirement, to vote on that?
It's an excellent question. I think we continue to have those monthly. I mean, I think they last 10 minutes. I think we can get on the call to do an approval for 10 minutes. Right? I mean, as a convenience for the plan members.
Caroline, are you talking about implementing this January 1 of next year?
Yeah, so for the December meeting, right, we have 2 more meetings this year. We have an October one, and then we have a combined November, December. And at that November, December meeting, we have to present and vote on the calendar. And so that would be when I kind of bring it before you. I want to kind of test the waters here.
So, I mean, I think, especially in light of the discussion we had earlier in this call about kind of these impending potential issues in the HR department and that kind of stuff, I am concerned that going to a quarterly meeting that quickly, if potentially maybe proposing after our July and breaking it to summer would be maybe something I'd be more comfortable with, just to kind of clear up kind of these low-hanging fruits. I still think we do have some bigger issues that we still need to keep our pulse on, I think, a little bit for a little while. I mean, I'm all in favor of going forward, but I still think we've got some outstanding issues, some transition issues, both on the actuarial side and this new HR stuff. So I'm a little concerned about not being in the loop as much there.
Okay. Fair points. Good points. Anyone? Any other thoughts?
I'd have to agree with Chris also. I think there are some still issues that need to be cleared up, and we could vote to have monthly meetings until July and then move quarterly. We can always cancel the meetings if we don't need them. But I do echo Chris's concerns.
All right, Kevin, Shadeen, any thoughts from your side? Oh, I think you're still muted.
Better?
I agree.
I do think there are a lot of open issues that maybe mid next year would be a better opportunity, and we can always cancel meetings if we don't have a lot on the agenda.
Do that. All right. Nick, Marissa, are you Where's your mind on this?
Twixt in between, but I would err on the side of let's do monthly until we get a few things ironed out a little better.
Okay. All right. That works. So we will keep with the monthly cadence, I guess. I will put together the calendar that you'll vote on in the December meeting. If you have any other thoughts, kind of send them my way. Thank you for your input. Last kind of substantive item here, Jared. We saved the best for last. The CFO report, which I don't know if you guys got a chance to look at. It is new and improved.
All right, I appreciate the report. It looks really good. I haven't seen it before, so I thought it was a nice improvement to see the way you presented that. So great job.
Good. And next month I'll be be back with the same type of format for the OPEB side of things too. So, and I'll try to get that to you earlier so you have some time to look at it. But yeah, this is I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You may have some questions about transfers and things, but I don't know if you want me to roll through it, or I can just give a summary of the ending cash balance. You know, we started we started the year 2021 with a balance of 3.276 million and ended the 21 year with 3.481. What this shows is top portion is our sources, including the contributions from the town, the employee contributions, and some smaller items of interest and dividends, some returns to deceased pensioners, and also some transfers. And so the transfers in this case would be these would be from our investments into the fund. And so the uses of the cash are numerous. People's Bank, the taxes, state, federal, health insurance premiums withheld. There were no legal services. That was kind of a leftover from previous years. The auditing fees. And then let's see, where is it? The cash transfers out would be, these would be for capital calls and investments that we make coming out of the fund.
I think it's great to see this laid out. I mean, it's just so helpful for us to have this the way that you've laid it out. And this is the 12-month look. So this is the year.
That's the year end, yeah. And we can do this if we, you know, I don't think it's necessary to do this on a monthly basis. We can, I think this would be something that we could update on a quarterly basis going forward, if the board's okay with that.
I'm comfortable with a quarterly look on this. Yeah. Right.
Any questions?
Just one quick question here, Caliper. There's no legal cost for the Allianz to date?
I'm not aware of any cost to Allianz because I believe that is on a well, I actually don't want to. I'm not sure if this would be appropriate to talk more about that in this.
Very good.
Right. Very, very good. Thank you, Jared. Thanks for doing that. And pulling that together. That's really good for us to see.
You're welcome.
Any other old business? Anyone have any new business? All right, that leaves one final thing, and that's for a motion to adjourn. Thank you all. There's a lot to cover today. Motion to adjourn. Jared, second. I don't think we need a second. Good night, you guys. 9:36. Have a nice evening.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.